I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. Across the country, officials are grappling with what to do about public statues, street names, and school names that commemorate Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis, Stonewall Jackson, and other heroes of the Confederacy. The Southern Poverty Law Center estimates that there are 1,500 Confederate symbols on public grounds in 31 states and the District of Columbia. Some built at the end of the Civil War, many in the early 1900s, and some as late as 2014. The debate over removing Confederate references was ignited in response to the killing of 9 members of a historically black church in Charleston in June of 2015. The gunman, Dylann Roof, a 21-year-old white supremacist, posed with the Confederate battle flag in pictures before the rampage. The Confederate flag was removed from South Carolina's State House a month after the shooting. And officials from New Orleans to Dallas, from Baltimore to Richmond, from New York to Montgomery all took up the issue. And in Biloxi, Mississippi, members of the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus boycotted a meeting of legislators from 15 states because the Mississippi state flag carries the Confederate emblem. Those advocating for removal say Confederate symbols speak to a past of racial segregation, slavery, and white supremacy. Opponents say the effort is rewriting history and will obliterate symbols of Southern pride that pay homage to the Confederacy's Civil War dead. Garrett Epps grew up in the Confederate capital city, Richmond, Virginia. He's a writer, a lawyer, a teacher who has researched the impact of the Confederate monuments. In a recent conversation, he told me the veneration of the Confederacy marked his youth and says it's time to take down the statues. Nice to see you, sir.
It's great to be here. So
Richmond, Virginia, the second capital of the Confederacy. What was your childhood like in terms of those statues? Were they pointed out? Was it a big deal, or was it something that people didn't even notice and they just walked by every day?
Well, you have to understand that for most of my childhood, I lived a block and a half from the equestrian statue of Lee, that is the sort of center of Monument Avenue. And everywhere we went, we were going past Confederate generals, General Stuart, General Lee, General Jackson. The school I went to, you were divided into 2 teams. You were either one of the Lees or you were one of the Jacksons. Our school colors were red and gray. Those were the 2 colors of the Confederate Army. So the Confederacy was in the room with us.
When I, as a Northeasterner, when I would ask people about Confederate statues or even the Confederate flag, they say, listen, this is our family's legacy and our family's history.
I think that's absolutely right. The Confederate statues are the product of a very particular time in Southern history, not of the post-war era, but of a generation or 2 later, when the system that we came to call segregation was being put in place.
If they're not about honoring Civil War heroes, what are they statues to?
They're statues to an imagined South that was all white, an imagined South in which the war was not fought for slavery, it was fought for some notion of freedom that was never quite explained.
So like a white supremacy
Exactly.
statue.
They were the symbols of white supremacy. There's a famous book about Robert E. Lee called The Marble Man, which just depicts the way in which the idea we have today of Robert E. Lee as this great saintly warrior was just invented.
That reinvention was due to what?
It was due to a desire to be able to say to people 2 things. One is, the war was not about slavery. And secondly, people who believed in the slave South were very, very noble. And if you accept that, you know, we were taught that these men were the equals of Jefferson and Washington and Madison. If you cannot believe that a Jefferson Davis is a great man and also believe that black people are your equals, the 2 beliefs cannot live together in one mind.
Was there a time when things shifted for you and you realized that these things that you had been sort of fed your entire childhood were propaganda, essentially?
I turned 18 just a few days after Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And my school that I attended and some of the institutions in my neighborhood refused to put the flag at half-staff, even though President Johnson had ordered that be done. They said that they weren't going to do that to honor Dr. King. They didn't feel he deserved that honor. But I saw the effect that had on people, you know, who were shattered with grief because of the loss of this amazing leader, and who were being told by people in power, your grief doesn't count, your history doesn't count. We won't take the slightest account of who you were and who this man was. And to realize how hurtful that was to them, that probably turned my mind to the idea of civic imagery and how much we live by symbols.
Mr. Epps, nice to see you. Thank you for talking with us.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it.